Dear students, good day to one and all. You are starting your third semester shortly, and we have something new to learn this time. In the last semester, that is in the second semester, you had a main paper called Appreciating Poetry, and we have seen the various aspects of learning and appreciating poetry. The world poetry, English poetry from England, then again the meter, the scanning, and how the beauty of the poem is revealed through the proper understanding of the stanzaic forms. All these you have learned in the second semester. Now we are starting the third semester, where you have not just one main paper but two main papers. One is Appreciating Prose and the other is English Grammar and Usage. Appreciating Prose is a paper which helps you to understand and appreciate the different types of prose writing. Prose writing was a later origin, but at the same time you find that it became much popular than any other form of writing. This is because prose employed a language that the common man use in everyday life, and it doesn't need the proper understanding of the stanzaic forms or meter, and even a common man with a basic education can understand prose writing. That was not so for early poetry. So when prose came into existence, it became immensely popular. You have a variety of prose like short stories, fiction, homilies even, and sometimes you have tales also. Tales means stories. Then this includes autobiography, biography, essay, everything comes under prose. So prose became one of the most famous of literary genres, and this is because several people contributed to this particular genre. We are starting with prose from England. That is how it started. As you have studied in your earlier history, you will find that prose was of a later origin, and you had Angles and Saxons and the war and the Danes invading England and the French invasion. Everything was there. All these contributed to the making of English literature, because you know that English literature was a young version when compared to the other European languages. And so naturally, this becomes all the more important that you should learn the basics of English prose, or how it started. And when you begin something from the very basics itself, you have to understand how it all went. The prose varieties like fiction, short story, and tales, autobiography, articles, essays, travelogues, and pamphlets, treatises, tracts, all these come under a later group. You find that it was of a much later origin. But earlier there was the translation of Bible, and that is the contribution of King Alfred, and he had done much for the development of English prose, because as you all know, the learned people, the clergy and the learned people used Latin because that was the language in which there was literature, and English was only a spoken language at that time. And this English that existed in those early days was not a language that you are now familiar with. Totally different, because if you learn the early English, you will find that you can't understand what it is. That kind of difference there was with the early English. So when people started writing and contributing much to that, much to the development of prose, you find that the way is opened for the common man to understand literature. Most of them were not learned people. They can speak language, they can communicate. And then again, there is the tremendous impact of Caxton's printing press in England. About that also you have learned in the history of English literature. So here you find this printing press contributing much to the development of literature. Why the printing press? Because earlier literature, or whatever that was written, was what was there in literature was the product of the clergy who wrote it down with hand and kept these manuscripts intact. So these manuscripts were heavy and it was not transportable. And if you want to copy a Bible, then naturally you will have to sit and write it. And you know how heavy it is and what a task it is. So the young monk will have to sit day, night and every day in order to copy the text and then keep it preserved in well written, beautiful handwriting, and keep it for the next generation. So this is the only way of letting the written word pass from hand to hand. So naturally it was not accessible to the common man. So with the coming of printing press, you know the impact it made on society. This made it possible for lay people and even the very people who can read and write to get hold of something and buy it from the press. And with this there is a spread of literature, all genres. And so this became an epoch-making discovery, and people are grateful to that. Even we are grateful to that, because nowadays you don't need the printed version. There is always the internet to do the work for you. The book is out of fashion. We all know that. But you must understand that at one time people were so grateful for the printed pages. And you can imagine how it was to go through one page after the other, read through the lines one after the other, and then enjoy and relish what is written. All this made the day for them. You know that in England there is this long winter. England has 4 seasons, clearly defined 4 seasons, and you know which seasons they are: spring, summer, autumn and winter. And winter is 3 long months and sometimes more than that. People can't venture outside. They are holed up at home during these 3 months. And what does that mean? It means that the father, mother, children, everyone will be there in the house and they can't go out, because there is the hearth, means the fireplace, around which they will all sit, because there is the winter outside and no amount of warm cloth will save them from the extreme cold that was there. And what about the animals and the cultivation? Cultivation was almost at a stop at that time, and the animals were also given much preference. But even then there was a big living room in the house. They did not have separate bedrooms or separate rooms as such. There is that common living room where on one side, near that hearth or on that hearth, all the cooking was done by the mother. The table will be there where the people will be sitting around, the other family members will be sitting around, and they will be having one work or the other. The mother efficiently arranged the education of the children. With the printed books available, they spend their time, the elder brothers or sisters, the siblings, they will read aloud to the youngsters, make them read it once again, and there will be pages covering and maybe a book completed within these 3 months. It's not always reading, but at the same time they have their own work to do, the youngsters and the elders. And at a time when it is most suitable, all will sit around the hearth, and not just the younger children, but the parents also sat and listened to the reading and the checking the pronunciation of the elders, so that the youngsters can copy it and do their work. So for 3 months it is homeschooling for them. Why am I saying this in connection with prose? That is something that you will understand. You are also doing a sort of homeschooling now. No teachers, no classroom, you can't venture outside. You have to depend upon your mobile or your computer or even your laptop, or depend upon your elder sisters or brothers' laptop, or even your mobile or their mobile, and you have to listen to your classes. And these households earlier in England set a way for us to understand how important education is in spite of lockdown. For them it was for years, this was the situation till there was the electricity and central heating system coming along, and winter became like any other month. They can venture outside, they can go to their classes, but even then there are the harsh times when the snow fell and it is impossible for you to open your door because snow is piled up to half of the door. So you have to get something to remove that snow from the door, and only then you can open the door and come outside. That kind of harsh winter they had. Still education went on, even in those smaller houses. They did not have electricity, they did not have any facility, and of course one thing was really easier for them, and that is to get water. They need pile a handful of snow from outside and put it in the pot, heat it up, and it becomes water, and you can be used. They need not go to get water from any well or anywhere else. So that is the only luxury they had. Even then the mother made sure that the children, it's not just one child, and naturally you know that most of them had 4 or more than 4 children, and all of them in the house day in and day out for 3 months. At least you can venture outside now during the corona times if you have a little bit of land around your house. Even within that, within your gates, if you have some land, you can venture outside to the veranda or to the outside. But for these people it can't be done. So it became necessary for them to read and spend their time educating the youngsters, so that when spring came, when the schools reopened, the students or the children will be ready for school. They have not forgotten anything that the teachers had taught them. Of course, the parents or the elders can't teach them the complicated things, but they can make sure that there is the reading, and there is also sort of education, means sort of reading and also understanding, and questions asked and discussions going on, and the whole family remained there in the house and contributed much to these discussions. This is why I said that there is a great similarity between the condition of the people of England during the winter times, earlier winter times, and our times, the corona times. So why should you begin your classes now? You have time to make up. And when the college reopens, it is open of course, but you need not come to the college. But at the same time, a certain amount of time should be spent in your house, in your rooms, and ask your family members that you are tell them not to disturb you while attending classes. After the class, you can talk to your mother or your father or your siblings about the class, criticize it, and get points, and note down the very important things that are to be done. And then you are ready for the greater reopening, when your physical presence will be there in the college. So this is why you find that prose became a very popular factor among the English households. People started writing and fiction became very popular. And what kind of fiction did they write? The fiction that could be read in the household with the parents and also with the younger children, which means that they can't write too much of vulgar fiction. They have to be very careful about the attitude of the characters, and at the same time it must be appreciated by the household. We have very popular writers, fiction writers in England, and because they were all appreciated by the household or the whole family, so that the mother or the father, even if they are not educated, they get education through children's education. So in a way, it is a give and take policy. The mother makes sure that the children are attending classes in the manner of reading and having discussion or even writing. Make sure that the work is done, though she doesn't understand what is being taught or what is being read. But here you find that she is also getting educated. When you start learning in this manner, you find that the mother or even the family members also contribute much to that. So when you come across the prose varieties, you find a lot of them, and King Alfred's contribution is one worthy factor that we have to remember, and also the contribution of several other people who had translated, because Bible was translated into prose, and there were a lot of translations from Latin to English, because English became a developing language with the, as I told you earlier, with the coming of Caxton's printing press. English started developing rapidly, not slowly but rapidly. So the dependence on Latin and Latin grammar became less and less, because Latin was an exclusive language restricted to the higher clergy and also the educated people, academicians, and not to the common people. So the common people had English, not the proper English that we have now, but the basic English, and this printing press helped them to read and write English better. So there is a lot of difference, as I told you, between the earlier spoken English and the written English, and this is why that change came over, and people also started getting advantage of this literature. So when the people understood that what they write will be carried over to the other people, or people will be reading that, there was much interest in that. Of course, interest in the sense that people can criticize others, and there was the monarchy, and you have learned in social history of England that it was the kings were criticized by a lot of people, and naturally this criticism was formed in the form of written words, and it was written in pamphlets. Then they started creating newspapers and magazines as a result of the coffee houses and the discussions that came about. All these were later development. But in all these, they started using prose more and more. Poetry was there for a long time. It was still there. It is still here now. But you will find that the amount of prose that is written is tremendous when compared to the amount of poetry written. This is why you have scientific fiction, science tracts, essays, and biographies and autobiography. All these come under prose. Diary writing, pamphlets were there in England, and you'll know the relevance of pamphlets in the later classes. But you know that this is something that we have to understand, and we have to study in this paper 3 modules, or this 3 and 4, 3 modules where you find, sorry, not 3 but only 2 modules. One is Introduction to Prose and the other is Reflections and Speeches. Reflections and speeches. Reflections of somebody on some topic and speeches of some persons. All these are included under the title Prose. But of course, when you begin something like prose, the first name that comes in English literature is that of Francis Bacon. Without him, you don't have any prose. So it starts with him. But even before Francis Bacon, prose existed in England. And even if it is not available to us in the book form, or even it is not prescribed in your syllabus, you will find that the earlier existing prose had its relevance in the modern prose too. This is why the earlier relevance of prose is mentioned in module 1 in the first part. If you have the syllabus, just go through it and check whether we are covering all those topics. That's the duty of the students. So naturally, this is in a way proper that we should really have an understanding of prose. And if I ask you to write prose, you are writing all your answers in prose. Suppose I ask you to compose a poem on a given topic. I know that some of you will turn this side and that side, and maybe there is someone in your class who got a prize for versification last time. If you ask him, you will find that he is well versed in composing a poem. So if you give him any topic, he can write lines on that, make sure that they are rhyming properly, and the metrical pattern. Sometimes the metrical pattern is followed, other times no, because you pronounce and somehow or other get to have those patterns, rhyme scheme, everything will be there. Even if you don't have that also, if you have a coherent thought, a clear thought from the very beginning till the end, and you can have the poetic form, then it is poetry. Prose is totally different. You can write pages and pages on that. I have seen you in examination halls writing pages and pages on essays which you are to write, answering paragraph questions again in prose, and answering certain questions which requires that you should answer them in only 2 sentences. That again is prose. You are restraining yourself to 2 sentences and giving that answer in a nutshell, only 2 sentences. And how long that 2 sentences are is indeed something that you can decide. And so you find a paragraph question, and sometimes the examiners will restrain you by telling you to write it in 100 words, not more than that, which again gives you another form of prose. Then sometimes you have to write an essay and a topic is given. And if you are very good at writing, you can write pages and pages of that essay. Answer that in pages. Not 3, 4, 5 pages you can write, as long as you have time in the examination hall. There also you are again restricted. And the question paper will tell you that you can answer the essay only in not more than 300 words, which is again almost 3 pages. Sometimes you restrain yourself to 2.5 pages, depending upon the length of the page and your handwriting. So these types of writing you are familiar with, and these are also an aspect of prose writing. You are not asked to write a poem for any exam, even if the paper is appreciating poetry. Have you ever written a poem for your exam? No. Has the teacher ever asked you to write a poem? Definitely no. You are just appreciating poetry and you are not writing a poem. And that comes under the title creative writing. But even then, you find that it is very difficult for anyone to compose lines which will be appreciated by others. Anyone can write a poem, but it need not be proper or even having coherent thought and things like that, but very good poems. Very few can write poems. But prose anyone can write, provided you have the material and you are so initiated into it that you can write lines and lines on that if your English is good. And naturally, your English improves with each writing. This, in a way, paves the way for other types of writing. You have letter writing. Do you write a letter in verse or prose? Definitely prose. Letter writing was there in early days, but nowadays nobody writes a letter or use an inland and post it. You just do text messages in WhatsApp. And text messages, sometimes you use English letters, English words, in order to convey what is there in your mind in Malayalam. Sometimes it is very difficult to read, and somehow or other your generation has really become adept in reading this Malayalam in English. So what do you call that also? It's again text messages and SMS earlier. These are short writings, but never have you come across a poem, even in those. So that kind of writing, that is composing a poem, is totally different. So when you find someone who can write real good poetry, really do appreciate him, because he is being blessed with that talent. Here you find that appreciating prose is one way of understanding the latest version in literature, and along with that you will understand more about novel, that is fiction, tales, and again short stories. Why do we mention fiction, short stories and tales? All these have stories in them, but how you write a story is different, in the sense that you can write a fiction or a novel which may come up to more than 10 chapters, 15 chapters, and then again you have short stories which you can read at one sitting, taking maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hours maximum, not more than that. And tales, short story, very short tales, stories, which you need not decorate with literature, just straight away storytelling. All these come under the term prose, under the heading prose. So here you have articles written in newspapers. They also come under the title prose. So wherever you turn, you have prose. But how do you differentiate and how do you appreciate these different types of prose writing? This is what we are going to learn in this semester, especially in this paper, Appreciating Prose. You have 9 prose writers here, and they are representative prose writing, and the way they have written is that which matters, not just the content. That is to be, content of course is important, but how different their writing is. This is what we are going to learn through this paper. So keep in mind, content is important, but at the same time how this content is written is that which is important. And the style of writing is also extremely important. It changes from person to person, from one prose writer to another, and in that manner it is possible to have any type of prose writing. For example, you have Bacon, the first one in the list. You have also other writers like Marcel Junod and Usha Jesudasan, Albert Camus, G.K. Chesterton, and Charles Lamb, of course. There's a lot of difference in the writing of Bacon and Charles Lamb. You will learn as you come through these essays. If Bacon can write with very few short sentences, Charles Lamb just goes on, and he is our darling because we understand him and you need not search your dictionary for the word meaning that he uses, the words that he uses in the essay. But that is not so with Bacon. Bacon was a scholar, and his essays are also scholarly, so it is a bit difficult to digest and understand it. So that kind of writing is possible for certain people who can very clearly express their thoughts in precise writing. People can take you to in their hand and continue with you on their journey of wandering, and this reads more like a short story rather than like an essay, but still we call them the essays of Charles Lamb. You don't say that they are the short stories of Charles Lamb, because he has written essays, not short stories. Maybe it is out of his imagination, but maybe it is personal, but it is more prose than short story. But it reads like a story to us. That's the difference. In the same manner, you have other writers also, Albert Camus and his Nobel acceptance speech. So a speech is also a prose, and you have to categorize it as a speech and then say that it is written in prose. And a diary is also diary writing. Some people used to keep diaries. You have heard of Anne Frank's diaries. This come under the diary, and you will also find autobiography and biography. Even biographies are written by some other people about another person. Autobiography is your own views on your own life. If your life is something that the world looks on, and if you are a famous person, naturally you are forced by others to write your autobiography, and this will be an example for others. You have the autobiography of Mahatma Gandhi, My Experiments with the Truth. I'm sure that none of you have ever read that. Even though you find a lot of references to it, you find it difficult to read because it is heavy reading. Heavy in the sense, it's not a small book. You have to go through it line by line and cover a few pages in one day, and then leave it for some time, because to read it at a stretch is too much for us. Though he had written with all his vehemence and all his sincerity, it makes very good reading. Of course, we know that. You have learned a part of that in your textbooks or maybe as lessons, but to read the complete text is just too much for us, because our attention span does not permit us to sit long hours at a prose like that. It is his life, and so we'll take a few pages at a time and we'll read that and then understand what it is. It is just simple prose, but it is a life which will inspire us. So today you have the introduction to appreciating prose, the first part, and in the next class I'll start the first essay, or along with the different types of prose that we have to cover, and learn about them side by side. So we'll go through that. If you have a textbook, then it's good, and I'm sure that they have not provided you with a textbook, so I'll try to get a copy of the essay, and you can have that plus the copy of the syllabus, and we'll begin the class in the next time. Thank you.